Hey, I'm Neve, and this is In the Know Behind the Screens. So this morning, I am locked in a doom scroll. I am looking at natural disasters, corrupt politicians, crazy conspiracy theories, and before I know it, an hour has passed. So today I'm speaking with Brian McLaughlin, who is an associate professor at Texas Tech University and an expert in all things negative news consumption. I want to know, what is doom scrolling? Why do we do it? And can we stop ourselves? I'm honestly so excited to be speaking about this because I'm actually so interested in why I doom scroll. For those of us who don't know, what is doom scrolling and why do you know so much about it?
So I know about doom scrolling because I've been studying it, but also because I've had problems with it myself. So doom scrolling, I think we can identify as scrolling through social media feed for negative information, things that make us upset. My work focuses on political communication, but I've really been focused on problematic news consumption recently, which is how people get drawn into the news. They start compulsively consuming it, and it ends up interfering with other aspects of their lives. Doom scrolling is certainly a portion of that, is type of problematic news consumption, specifically focused on scrolling through social media, getting really caught up in these negative news stories. They get really drawn in, and they're really experiencing these things, and they can't stop thinking about them. And then the patterns become compulsive, the types of things we see with doom scrolling, where you're just constantly flipping through, constantly checking, maybe watching the news, to the point you can't stop.
Okay, here's the thing. If you were to tell me that I would spend multiple hours a day reading sad, scary story after sad, scary story, I'd be like, no, I wouldn't. But here I am most days doing so. So my question for you is, why do I do that? Why do we doom scroll? Why is it so easy to fall into that cycle?
Part of it is that you think you're kind of upset and you think it's going to help, and it doesn't, right? But in doing so and going back to it, it kind of reinforces these habits. They become habitual and ultimately ends up crowding out other parts of your life. And so instead of focusing at work or at school or paying attention to your family and friends, you're on your phone, or you're just kind of constantly thinking about whatever you might be concerned about in the news or whatever you see on social media, to the point that it kind of dominates a large portion of your life. Well, we're naturally inclined to pay attention to negative information. It's good for us to pay attention to things that we might need to be concerned about. A lot of the way our brain works is based on a long process of evolution and things that are based on survival needs. And one of the things that our brain does is misrepresent and pay more attention to negative information because it helps, right?
So our brain just has that negative confirmation bias?
But it makes sense. The cost of not paying attention to negative things evolutionarily is much more severe than not paying attention to good things, right? If you miss out on some delicious berries because you think they might be poisonous, that kind of sucks, but you'll go on, right? But if you eat something that's poisonous because you weren't cautious enough, then you're in trouble.
What are the top 3 biggest impacts that doom scrolling and problematic news consumption has on an individual?
It can increase stress and anxiety. It can take away your time from other things you should be focusing on. And if you're into politics, it can increase hostility and animosity towards the other side.
And I feel like a lot of my generation, I do consume most of my news from social media. And especially now, I feel like people are very encouraged to take accountability for their own education of like what's going on in the world around us. What are your thoughts on the pressure on the individual to stay informed? And is there a line between being a good amount of informed, like doing your part, and going so far that it's actually not helpful?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely we need people to stay informed, right? Like if nobody was informed, if nobody paid any attention, like then we'd be in trouble. But what we would like to see is like a balance, right? The people that do pay attention, they do follow what's going on, but they don't get sucked down the rabbit hole.
And if I was going to come to you and be like, this is ruining my life, like everything is hopeless and I am too aware of it, is there any like tip or trick you would give to someone?
I think that's a feeling that a lot of people can identify with. I have certainly had plenty of those feelings. And there's a lot of reasons to kind of either be concerned about the way things are going, whether that might be, or if you feel like the situation is hopeless in terms of the political climate. Look, if you check the news, there's plenty of bad things to be concerned about, right? There's no doubt about that. But at the same time, what we would argue is that people lack the perspective and grounding that if they look around in their everyday life, things aren't as bad as they think, right? We get so consumed with all these things that are really negative and potentially concerning, but they might not come to pass, or they might not directly affect us. And it comes at the cost of kind of paying attention to the things that are going on in our life and that maybe we don't actually have to be worried at this present moment. So just kind of paying more attention to what's going around you and appreciating the things and thinking about, like, is this something I need to currently worry about
Is there a way that if I read 10 horrible things that are happening, 10 very stressful things that are happening, can I balance that out by seeking out good things that are happening, or just does it not work that way?
This comes down to developing a healthier relationship. Again, because if you just say, I'm going to avoid the news, I'm not going to pay any attention to it, I'm not going to check social media, or whether it's for the news or for some other reason because you're looking at other people's Instagrams and feeling bad about it. If you just try to stop yourself from changing the behavior, right, then again, you're in this position where you're either not doing it or you're doing it and you're doing it with a problem. But we're kind of paying more attention and trying to think about developing healthier habits rather than just forcing ourselves to stop.
When do you catch yourself and go, oh, I'm doom scrolling, now's the time to stop? Is there like a feeling that you have that you're like, oh no, that's my limit?
The goal isn't to say you're never going to behave in a way in which like you're not getting sucked in. What's most important is realizing when you're doing it and kind of catching yourself so you stop the downward cycle. And mindfulness really helps with that.
Wow. Well, I feel a lot more educated on the doom scroll. And honestly, maybe that'll help me break the cycle. Brian, thank you so much for spending your time talking to me about this. This has been so interesting.
It was great. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Well, I feel like I'm more informed on all things doom scrolling, but we will see if I can actually put that knowledge to use next time I'm falling down the rabbit hole. If you want to keep up with all things weird and wonderful in the world of social media, you know where to find me. Join me next time on In the Know Behind the Screens.